Okay, no problem. Okay, we'll continue. So, yeah, Akanksha, Vaishali, let's start. I think audios are checked, so we can go ahead.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to our guest speakers, our director, moderator, respected faculty members, and all dear students. Thank you all for finding time and joining us for today's webinar. My name is Akanksha.
And my name is Vaishali. We are students of MPlan at Amity University, Haryana. I hope we are audible to everyone. Our topic for today is reimagining urban rivers, river rejuvenation, riverfront development, and urban redevelopment of river zones. Before we start, let me explain how you can talk to us during the webinar. If you have any questions, you can just write them to the chat. We will have a question answer round at the end of the session to answer all your questions. So now we can begin. Our speaker for today are Mr. Shanesh Joshi and Mr. Santosh Singh.
Mr. Sanesh Joshi is the Assistant General Manager, Project Development Practice at Tata Projects Limited. He has over 12 years of industry experience across operations, business development, and consulting. He was part of development of several unique projects for various government institutions in environment, defense, and smart city segments. He has strong knowledge on technologies and expertise in integrated river rejuvenation projects and has conceptualized several projects in the country.
Our second guest speaker is Mr. Santosh Singh, who is director at Phoenix Planning Studios. Mr. Santosh Singh is a town planner by profession and has an experience of over 11 years of working in architecture and planning industry. He has worked on various urban design, water management, and riverfront projects, besides major logistic projects, city development projects, master plans, and land acquisition projects. So now I would request our respected director, Dr. Ela Gupta, to welcome the guests. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vaishali, and thank you, Akanksha. I extend a very hearty welcome to the eminent speakers of today, Mr. Shanesh Joshi and Mr. Santosh. I thank you very much, Mr. Joshi and Mr. Santosh, for sparing your time and talking to the students. This is a very important event for us because it is kind of these expert talks are bridging the gap between the academia and the industry. So we all know that when we are students, we are little confused about what actually happens in the real world and how the projects are being implemented, what happens there. So this is kind of this effort is to kind of bridge that gap, and hence our students are really excited to attend this. I think there was some glitch in the event, and I think our students are still joining, so we'll continue with the lecture, and I think we'll help them join the event eventually. So this is a very important lecture because rivers are always very important to all our cities. Since prehistoric times, human beings are being settled around the rivers, and almost all our major cities are having rivers with them. So, and dynamics of rivers are again very difficult to understand because it changes as per the season, as per the policies, as per the government interventions, and the sensitivities of the architects and planners in that area. So, and riverfront development is always a very popular topic when it comes to architecture and planning students. That's what I've seen in my past 7 years of experience. Many architecture students and many planning students, they like to work something to do with the rivers. So it's nice. It's a very so we are all looking forward to your talk today, and we'll keep interacting with you towards the end of the session. By the time I think most of our students would have joined. So I think we should at least start the session because again we'll have a time limit here also. So hearty welcome both of you.
Yes, so thank you so much for that kind introduction. And we reciprocate sincere thanks to Dr. Ila Gupta, Ms. Kumud Dhanvantari, and entire Amity team for organizing this particular session, which is very critical today. And we have some good experience as industry players. We have worked on several river rejuvenation, river development projects. So we would love to take you through the experiences that we have had in last 5-6 years of our engagements with various central and state government agencies to take up river rejuvenation projects. So quickly about Tata Projects. I come from Tata Projects. We are a Tata Group company. We are into urban infrastructure, industrial infrastructure, transportation, and we have worked on several smart city projects, environment related projects, buildings, metros, airports, and on the industrial side we have constructed power plants, steel plants, refineries, and etc. etc. So we are one of the fastest growing infrastructure company in the country and have very strong experience of last 40 to 50 years. We are quite new to the environment segment. To be honest, we started somewhere in 2013-14. We started working on typically, sewage treatment plants, water treatment plants, solid waste management initiatives. But then we realized that there was this one major problem of, water body pollution, where we have not really managed our river bodies very well in the country. So in 2014-15, we started this initiative, and Mr. Santosh, who is co-founder of Planning Studios, has been associated with us since then. And I will give you a glimpse of what all projects we have done. One of our iconic project that we have done is in the city of Jaipur. So you'll get to know what all elements from urban planning and architecture point of view have gone into these projects. Uh, we will plan to keep this session for about 45 minutes, this presentation, and we'll have question and answer session towards the end. I encourage you all, young minds who are going to shape future of our country, to have your thoughts running and ask as many questions as possible. We will, if we can answer it today, we will try and answer it. If not, we can write back to you, and on an email we can respond to you. So we are talking about environment friendly options in our all daily lives. When it comes to energy, we are talking about clean energy from solar, hydro, or wind. When it comes to transportation, we are talking about clean energy to run the vehicles, that is electric or CNG. We are preferring to have organic foods which are grown on not harmful chemical fertilizers, but on organic manures and compost. So we are moving very close to the environment. We are talking about reducing and reusing plastic. So that's very good. We have started late, but I think we have a lot of ground to cover. On the urban planning, definitely on the architecture, we are going for green buildings these days. We are preferring to have lean constructions where we don't use much concrete. We are planning to have more green spaces, clean waterfronts, nature parks. So I think a good opportunity. And I think from urban planning point of view, the biggest opportunity and a low hanging fruit that we all have today is managing our river zones. As Dr. Ila Gupta has very rightly said that our civilization has happened traditionally on the banks of river. So when we go back, all our major cities are developed on banks of river, and every city you can see that a major river will be flowing through. So this river zone is a very broad aspect. But if we have to see a river in a three-dimensional view, then the first most important dimension is the functional aspect, where a river is very important functionally to our lives. It's a source of water for not only drinking, but irrigation and also for the industrial requirements. The second dimension is social, where it's a very beautiful, aesthetically open public space where we can have a very good time on the banks of river. There are religious sentiments. In India, we think rivers as our mothers, and we treat them as gods and goddesses. The third dimension is obviously the ecology, where a river is very important to maintain the ecological balance, where it recharges our groundwater aquifers, and it provides aquatic life, it maintains flora and fauna. So if we see the river from these three dimensions, these are the most important, aspects of our life where we should be focusing and prioritizing. So let me, as I have given you a brief introduction, I would share my screen, and if I can share a presentation. I think I'm getting the host disabled participant screen sharing. So there's a presentation which we would like to share. Okay, I think it works fine now. So give me a moment. I think you should be able to see my screen very soon. If it is not already there, I hope it is already there. Yeah. So what what we have done, we have given you a glimpse of what all our rivers look like today, and we have tried to show you major cities and the rivers flowing through it. So you can see in Delhi, you have Yamuna. You all are very close to Delhi, so you must have seen Yamuna. Those who come from Mumbai, they would have seen Methi. We have Ganges in Calcutta, Adyar in Chennai, Musi in Hyderabad, Muamutha in Pune. Then some more pictures you can see. There is Hindon in Ghaziabad, Patiala. You have Badi Nadi. There is Buddha Darya in Ludhiana. Then Nagpur, Surat, Bangalore. So you can see these are all different rivers. Mind you, we have not put one photo of one river and just change the titles. These are all different rivers, but yes, they are all same in character. So they look all same. They are full of solid waste dumps. They are heavily silted with sand and hyacinth. You can see a good amount of unorganized, undeveloped areas on the banks of rivers. So we have clearly not managed our rivers very well in the country. And this is high time, we should give due attention to these, because there are major risks that we are carrying today in our lives. So the major and the most important risk that we have today is the pollution of surface water and the groundwater. So when we are dumping so much of solid waste, or we are not managing the wastewater properly, a lot of industrial wastewater and domestic wastewater without treatment is going into these rivers. Definitely, we are creating very harmful, unhygienic conditions. We are prone to waterborne diseases, because this water, not only surface water, but this water trickles down into the groundwater and spoils the clean groundwater. Then these are typically, mosquito breeding fields. So you will suddenly see a surge of dengue, malaria in urban centers quite often whenever it rains and the water stagnates. So it's a major risk. The second risk is of flooding. I come from Hyderabad. I'm based out of Hyderabad. So last 10 days, 15 days were really, really horrible. We have seen really, very concerning situation, because the rainfall happened. It was not a very heavy rainfall. It was moderate rainfall, I would say. But still, we had so much of issue, because the river, Musi River, is fully encroached. There is no buffer zone left, and the water could not actually pass through the river, and the entire city was flooded. Another opportunity loss is our city spaces are expanding. We are, now Delhi, if we include the NCR region, just imagine how big we have expanded. But then there is a good amount of land which is available in this river zone, which we are not utilizing. Similarly, again, we are short of lung spaces. So all these water bodies give us an opportunity where we can develop waterfront parks, public spaces where people can go have good quality time. So we have clearly missed on this particular opportunity, but I think it's time that we should realize, and we have examples in front of us. If we see some of the rivers, which if we just step out of India and we maybe go to Seoul, there is this Chongi River in Seoul. Then we have one Rosho River in Singapore. Then we have Louis McNay Riverfront in Canada. So what do you see in these rivers? I mean, while we have seen what our rivers look like, uh, definitely not good. While their rivers are definitely more beautiful and clean, but if you notice the skyline next to all these rivers is so beautiful. You can see commercial spaces, you can see high-rise buildings, you can see parks. So they have captured this opportunity of developing a river zone into a very promising, environment-friendly, and commercially active zone. So we have clearly missed on this particular opportunity in our country. And as I was saying, that when we entered into the environment business, we realized that it's time that we should, as Tatas, which is a very socially oriented group where we look after the social needs and we try to address them, we realized we need to have our urban rivers go through a major transformation. And we actually started working on developing rivers around the country. We identified several rivers, and I think we got a very good support from government of Rajasthan and central government, who accepted that we were willing to take up this challenge of transforming a river into, or transforming a nala into a river, and they supported us. So we started to work on Manisha Nala was the drain in Jaipur. Traditionally, in its pristine form, it was actually Dravyavati River. But over a period of time, it became so filthy that people started calling it Nala, and then there was some dargah on it. So it turned out to be a Manisha Nala. So the task that was given to us was to transform this river into a very lively urban space, and we took up this challenge. We started to work on this particular project somewhere in 2015. We spent almost a year to create broad designs, concepts, plan the areas, then got into detailed engineering. And then in 2016, we were awarded to construct this particular project. So it was all on paper till 2016. And then we were given the task to bring it on ground. So a large set of teams started working on it. Mr. Santosh was also a very important part of this particular project. So he will give you more glimpse on this particular project from planning point of view, but I'm going to just give you a broad understanding about how this was done. So the development agency was Jaipur Development Authority. The total cost of this project was 1,676 crores. It was funded by National Capital Region Planning Board, which is a central government entity which funds such unique projects. And the entire project was completed in 30 months of time. So we started somewhere in March 2016, and on 2nd October 2018, this project was inaugurated for public. The project is the river length is close to 47 kilometers. It starts in Nahargarh Hills in Jaipur. Those who are familiar with Jaipur possibly may have seen this particular project. So it starts in Nahargarh Hills, flows through all the prominent areas of the city. You can see this is a Google map. So all that white is all development that you can see. So it is passing through all the important and prominent areas of Jaipur. And then after flowing for about 47 kilometers, it goes and meets a river, which is Dhund River. Now, ironically, you would have all heard about Namami Gange program, where we are trying to work on rejuvenating our holy river of Ganga. And you would be surprised, we are miles away in Jaipur, very far, far away from Ganga. But then this project, what we did, actually also helped in cleaning Ganga. How, I would tell you, because this is a tributary of Dhund River. So water from this goes into Dhund. From Dhund it goes into another river. From there it goes to Chambal. Chambal goes into Yamuna, and then Yamuna finally ends up into Ganga. So our small effort of creating a good water body here in Jaipur has also benefited River Ganga. So every small step that you take is going to help you to create that larger picture. So to just give you a glimpse, this is how this Dravyavati River or Amanisha Nala that point of time looked like. Very similar to what we have seen, you know, how our other rivers are looking. And if you see on the right, this is what is it today. If you go and see, possibly it will be even better because this is a little older image. But what we have done, we have channelized the river. When you channelize it and when you maintain it well, you have good amount of land that comes out of it where you can plan either some public space or some commercial space. So you can see very beautiful parks have been created. There are walkways, there are cycle tracks, there are open air theaters and whatnot. Then almost 72 hectares of land has been reclaimed, which now they have started monetizing. So they are going to sell this land for commercial purposes, and I'll show you some economics of doing this particular project in subsequent slides when we come there. So very uphill task. So it was not easy, definitely, because whatever we have done to our rivers, it is going to take a lot more to bring it back to its original form. So huge amount of concreting was done. This was essentially, we don't recommend concreting, but then this was necessary because Jaipur has flash floods, and to have that kind of velocity of water, we had to line this channel into certain sections. It is not completely concrete line. Somewhere it is natural, somewhere it is stone pitched, but wherever there was a velocity issue or a flooding issue, we had to line it. Then you can see almost 99 lakh cubic meter of earthwork was done, 17,000 trees were planted, so much of 2 lakh 16,000 square meter of grass turfing. So a lot of work has gone into bringing this river back to its original form, and obviously a lot of money was spent. So key features, what we envisaged at that point of time was to have a good public space. When you have a 47-kilometer length of right of way, it gives you ample opportunity to create pathways, walking tracks, cycle tracks. Then we also had sewage treatment plants where we needed to have very good and clean water into these rivers. So like that, I think we'll talk more about what all features have gone into the project when Mr. Santosh takes us through that. Then some of these pictures, I think these are a bit old pictures, but I think we can see that how this entire space has transformed. While we were working on it, we found a British era pumping station, which was actually not even noticed or nobody knew. We have created a beautiful museum out of it, and there is a cafe which has been built. A lot of people come and visit this cafe now. There is a bird park, there is a heritage garden. So good amount of green space in a, though Jaipur is not typically desert, but then people are not really used to seeing so much of water and greenery there. But now I think with this project, I think the entire skyline and the landscape of Jaipur city has changed. We have also constructed one project experience center. So those who happen to visit Jaipur can definitely, I would recommend you please visit the project experience center where you will get to understand how this project was conceptualized and was delivered. We got a lot of appreciation. Our honorable prime minister has congratulated. Our vice president has taken a aerial view of when this was being developed. We have got several awards. So this is typically a people's project. I think any such project, because we are the ones who have actually spoiled these rivers, I would say. We should take accountability of each individual each one of us should take accountability that yes, we have spoiled the rivers, and I think we should take again responsibility of cleaning it. So these all projects are people's projects. So I think we have gone through this people cycle very well in last 4 5 years, where we had stakeholder engagement, people engagement. We told why this project is important and why this should be done, how they are going to get benefited. We organized school picnics. A lot of students, young minds came. They saw the experience center. They realized, yes, we have not done the correct thing, and it's time that we should correct. And they were actually very happy to be part of this particular project. So, what was the value that has been created? So, the first and foremost is the health. We have improved air, water, and land quality by doing this particular project, which is going to not only benefit the river area, but the entire river zone and the people who are staying in and around that river zone. Definitely, I don't think there is any flooding that has happened since 2018 in Jaipur. Since we have commissioned most of the parts of the project, the water, in fact, in this year, I think we have seen some of the videos that how well the entire storm water was managed. Uh, Definitely has boosted economic activities. I think Jaipur is a very commercially oriented city, so people have taken this opportunity, and a lot of economic activities are happening in and around this river zone now. Almost 5,000 jobs were created. We have reclaimed close to 72 hectares of government land, and if we actually see the market rate, I think it is going to be 3 or 4 times the investment that has gone into it. So economically also it is very beneficial. Wealth has been created for citizens, and good economic activities have started in the city. So as I was saying that this is how this was done. So this is the breakup of how this 72 hectares of land was reclaimed. And if we take a very basic rate of 20,000 rupees per square meter, where and I think the market rate is close to 50,000 or 60,000, but then we have gone very conservative. But with that as well, I think the project was self-financed. Even with the conservative numbers, such project can actually once fully developed, can contribute to pay back all the loans that the governments would be willing to take. So a very healthy river hygiene project. I think we should all be proud of it. I think since we have worked on this, we have learned the tricks of the trade, and we have understood that how and how this can be done. Sabarmati was a project which was done in Gujarat. I think you all would be familiar with it. I think it was very rightfully highlighted by our Honorable Prime Minister. But typically, I would say is a river development project. It's not a river rejuvenation project because they had a good source of water from Narmada, and they wanted to transfer that water from Narmada into their irrigation channels. So they used Sabarmati as the water channel. So they had a good source of clean water with them, and they managed to really do development around those areas very nicely. But if we talk about river rejuvenation, I think this is what and this is how it needs to be done. So I think I have covered a bit of the points that I had to share with you all. I hope that this has given you a perspective of how these rivers are important in our lives, and each one of us how we can contribute in developing these rivers. So now I would request Mr. Santosh to take you through some of the important planning related concepts. So I'm going to unshare my screen, and I would request Mr. Santosh to share his screen and take you through his presentation.
Yeah, hi everyone, good evening. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hi, so my name is Santosh Singh. I'm an urban planner graduated from SPA, School of Planning and Architecture, in 2009. And I started my job with ILNFS initially. I think in 3 or 4 months, I got an opportunity with Jaipur Development Authority. And since I liked Rajasthan, I mean, and Jaipur and also, I decided to move to Jaipur. So I joined JDA. After working like 3 or 4 years with JDA, I mean, like I was having this feeling that my knowledge is rusting, and also I like resigned from JDA and started my own practice, like my own firm. And like we got some projects and like gradually kept working on it, and then eventually we got associated with TPL, Tata Projects Limited, and we got this like opportunity to work on this project, which is like the Drivati River Rejuvenation Project. I mean, like a very good pilot project in terms of river rejuvenation in India. I mean, I would say it is the first project of a river rejuvenation in India. So, I mean, to begin my part, so I'll first speak on like what river rejuvenation is. So essentially, Mr. Shanis has explained like what are the like conditions of rivers in India, how they have degraded in the due course of time, how urban development has like taken over. I mean, and ended up in like such situation of these rivers. So river rejuvenation is basically an exercise to, I mean, to bring them back to the closest form to their natural form, and by way of like flood mitigation, pollution abatement, and like some beautification. I mean, area development, which we like combinedly calling it as area development, which is basically master planning, landscape design, urban design, and all kind of like planning and architecture works. So basically, river rejuvenation has three major components. So one is like improving their river hydraulics, which is basically improving their like flood carrying capacity. Second is the pollution abatement, which is basically 3-4 parts, so which is like has solid waste management, then like cleaning the water, and then further we can move on to the natural treatment of water. In area development, we have done like various, I mean, we have done various kinds of activities, including master planning, creating their like urban redevelopment guidelines and all. In terms of explaining how we go about this like whole river rejuvenation process, so first part is the pre-feasibility and detailed project report and DPR. After the DPR is formed, then we go for preparation of master plan. When a master plan is prepared, then we identify certain projects for execution, and then we design and execute those projects. Uh, I'll explain Drivati river project in terms of like explaining how we go about river rejuvenation, which we have like done for many other rivers subsequently. So to understand Drivati project, we'll need to understand how this river was, I mean, closely. So as Mr. Shanis has told, this river was historically known as Drivati, but later Dargah of of Amanisha Nala was like established during Mughal period on the northern edge of the river, this water stream. While during that period, this Jaipur was a very small town, like the fortified town located on the west of this water stream. Since then, I mean, people started calling it Amanisha Nala, and actually, eventually, it turned into a Nala with a very like degraded state. It had lots of like sewage flowing into it. Solid waste was deposited like all around the river. Generally, we could say it was a degenerated ecological environment. There was slumming along the edges, encroachment at like many places where like it was hardly enough space for that water to flow out. Length of the river is like quite huge, 47.5 kilometer. And the most important thing is that the gradient from start to end of the river was 150 meter, and that was the reason why this concretization was done for the river, just to like carry that flow, because the slopes were heavy, and it was a major engineering challenge why that was done. Uh, in case of Dravati only, I mean, in case of Jaipur, so annual flooding was like, prevalent with two major floods. One was 1981 and second was 2011, where like there was lots of devastation by this small water stream, which is not even like perennial. There were connectivity issues like across this river, because this river was dividing the whole Jaipur into two parts. So, I mean, if you are like familiar with Jaipur, so there were like areas like Mahesh Nagar and all, there are areas of Vaishali Nagar. And to move from Mahesh Nagar to Vaishali Nagar, you will have to take a big round and to go to the Vaishali Nagar. So there were like connectivity issues, there were health hazards because annual like breakout of malaria and dengue. There were open wastelands, I mean, within the city center, which were like lying vacant and which was acting as negative spaces. So overall, I would say that it was a like waste of an opportunity of having a good waterfront, good riverfront, which was like going waste. So, I mean, looking at these points, so we have like created a certain vision, and which I'll explain later. So these were like major issues. There was one more issue, I mean, which Shanice has also highlighted that, I mean, this water, this contaminated water was flowing out of Jaipur to the Sanganer region, and where like mostly vegetables were grown out of it, and those vegetables were supplied in the market. So that was also one major issue of this like contamination. Also, the groundwater was also getting contaminated and all. So those were the major issues while this project was conceptualized. This is one picture which is like from that early period when this work was started. You can see a JCB moving on the edge of like the river. So there was this small stream, highly polluted, and this picture is of the start of the river. While in the later years there were like a lot of polluted water and contamination. So I will not go into detail of pollution abatement, but I'll briefly describe. So these are like basic 3 or 4 parts. Not necessarily we have done all of it in this project, but gradually we have refined this process. The first part is like screening of the solid waste. Then we go for like sewage interception and like treatment through sewage treatment plants. There's a aeration technology where like we create these like, water fountains and all within the river stream for aeration of water. Then we can also go for natural treatment of water. Like there are different technologies to treat them naturally, like constructed wetland. You must have heard about it. Floating wetlands, water edge planting. I mean, plant certain like flora along the edges, which will treat the water. And they're like I mean floating pods. So in order to go ahead with this project, there were the projects we had. I mean, we started with creating a vision, so which was basically to create a vibrant and lively waterfront by complementing the character of the context, and by planning viable and attractive plazas and promenades to break the monotony of the stretch without affecting the hydraulics of the water body. So I mean, this vision carried everything when we started. And then we like came out with certain objectives to I mean provide certain amenities, infrastructure, which like cycling infrastructure, uh, creating public amenities like toilets and public toilets and all, creating a walkway, and connecting the greens located all along the river. So in terms of explaining the whole project, I'll explain, I mean, what were the major projects undertaken during this project. The first part was the master planning of the project to begin with. So a master plan for the whole project had to be prepared, and which was a big challenge because the master plan for Jaipur was already in place. And in Jaipur's master plan, this river was shown as a river zone without assigning any like detailed land uses. Uh, all the lands which were in the river zone were, I mean, lying vacant because there were no development guidelines for those areas. I mean, if we do not talk about the river, also those areas were lying vacant. So first exercise in master planning was in terms of defining a project area. I mean, so when we talk about a river, and river has a certain like affected area or its context area. So to define that, we have to do certain exercises. So certain layers were taken into account. So first thing was Geological Survey of India. We collected those like I mean the river boundary from the Geological Survey of India. Second was master plan delineation of G1 and G2. So G1 and G2 areas, basically eco-sensitive areas marked by the master plan. Then there was a layer created of vacant land parcels and built up areas. Also, the vacant land parcels of the government ownership lying immediately next to the river were also taken into the project area. And in case of river dams and all, where like water was like flooding beyond the those areas, those areas were also taken into accounts. So that's how like project area was delineated. On the left, you could, if you can see, these are the basic components of the master plan which was prepared. So first thing obviously was the base map. Then second part was like understanding the engineering aspects, which is very important. I mean, when you're doing a project like this, so you need to understand how the, I mean, this like river hydraulics or the different activities proposed in the engine or from the engineering point of view in the project, how will they come and how will they are going to affect your land uses. Then like certain, we have done the case studies of like certain river projects all around the world, which Mr. Shaniz explained, like Rosha River is in Singapore. uh, we have studied also the Sabarmati riverfront, which was done in the Ahmedabad. So, and the surveys and those were conducted. First thing was the preparation of a conceptual plan. Then like certain workshops were conducted for like, public involvement and all. Uh, then a proposed land use mix was created, which we call the draft master plan. So we'll not go into the details. So that's how, I mean, it also included a business plan. So I'll straight away go to the what all the planning exercises that we did during the master plan and what were the challenges that we faced. So first thing is the collection of primary and secondary data. I mean, through surveys, stakeholder interviews. Second part was the project area delineation, which I explained right now. Then was the updation of existing land use. Since we had the master plan for Jaipur recently prepared, so we had to update the existing land use. Uh, for last 7 years, which was the gap period. Then there was like exercise done to identify the infrastructure requirement. For example, city has parks, city has hospitals and all. So if we are creating a master plan and we have an opportunity to provide city level facilities, so we did that exercise of like their service area diagrams, overlapping them and creating a gap zones where we had to provide those city level facilities. Another important exercise was the preparation of a land bank, because like for preparation of master plan, knowing the land ownership was very important. So we created a land bank through GIS mapping. So we collated all the revenue maps of all the, like some, there were like some 48 49 revenue villages all along the river. So we had to like digitize them, bring it on the GIS, correlate them with their revenue, land ownership. And we created a land bank where we could easily see what are the lands lying with the government, which were the private lands. Then we had to review the urban development guidelines, so which are basically building bylaws, township policy. Those guidelines we reviewed then, and we reviewed them with specific to the riverfront development. And we prepared a revised urban development guidelines. What are the challenges? In terms of challenges, so first thing comes with the lack of comprehensive data when you like going for a preparation of a master plan of such a scale. I mean, so there was this area was around like 1800 hectares, and a length was 47 kilometers. We needed a lot of data, and that data is not easily available. If the data is available, there are gaps. Second thing was like there were many stakeholders involved, like for example, JD was there, RICO was there, Rajasthan Industrial Development Authority was there, Housing Board was there. So though all these like authorities had lands within the this river zone, and we had to do coordination with all of them. Almost 50% of the land was under private ownership, and which was a very big hurdle. I mean, in terms of planning economically viable land uses, when we like, for example, we proposing a park and we proposing a park on a private land, it becomes an issue. And so that was another challenge. There is another thing. I mean, in such projects, for environmental factors, when we consider them, we do the like uh, land. You look at the land uses. So one major hurdle comes, which is environmental clearances, because our environmental laws are like very stringent. And proprietary. And next thing comes is like when prepare a land use plan. Land use plan is prepared by a private agency. There is a definitely a trust factor by the local body. So I mean, so this is what we had faced during the master plan preparation. Though after the master plan, we had identified like certain land uses and we did the riverfront development. So, I mean, so in riverfront development of that like 47.5 kilometer, we identified 30 kilometer, which was within the city limits as the river front development for the riverfront development. And of that, I mean, we divided that stretch into certain destinations. I mean, so the thing was, I mean, we had this long stretch which we have had to design, and we wanted to break the monotony. I mean, which I did explain earlier. So we decided to divide that whole stretch into, I mean, promenade and destinations. So by promenade we mean, I mean, linear stretch of river bank where your facilities will be located, where your cycle track, walkway will be there, and there will be destinations where which we have called as nodes and plazas. So on the, I mean, if you can see the map on the left hand side, these are the location of major nodes, which was Mazar Dam, Sikar Node, Ajmer Road, Atis Market, B2 Bypass, Sangane Node, and Tonk Road. So in terms of explaining what these nodes and plazas are, so if you, I mean, if you're from the architecture background in the urban design, there's a concept called node where like urban character is changing. So we identified those areas where this urban character was changing, where there's like major transport node is available, transport connectivity is available, the places where people will access the river. So those, I mean, those points were called as nodes. They were basically designed for a particular capacity. So for example, node was designed for gathering of 300 to 400 persons. There were like multimodal mode of transport available. We had to provide parking there, vending spaces were provided, a service block was provided, which was basically a toilet block. A bus shelter was provided, and I mean, place for recreational activities. Plaza was a smaller place, I mean, designed for 50 to 100 people. So these were the areas located within the residential neighborhood. So these nodes were mostly located along the, I mean, commercial areas, and plazas which were located in the residential neighborhoods. In terms of like I mean, making them giving them identities, this whole riverfront was designed and themed on celestial bodies. I mean, हमारे जो नक्षत्र होते हैं, तो सात नक्षत्रों के ऊपर we have like given them a theme, and activities were planned accordingly. I mean, so this is one example of a node, which is Atis Market node. So there were like riverfront restaurants were provided, a sundial was proposed, public toilets were proposed, and vending spaces were provided. So this was like located near a metro station where like connectivity from all other places were provided, and a river crossing was provided. Uh, in terms of explaining the, I mean, typical river section, which I have called as promenade. So promenade was designed, I mean, keeping in mind the engineering aspects of the, I mean, river design, which Shanice has explained, I mean, the hydraulics. So this is one section, not, I mean, one typical section, not necessarily the right, I mean, only section for the riverfront development, but this is like designed for different flood levels. So lowest level is the dry weather flow, where, I mean, whether, I mean, it is the level when the, I mean, of the rainy season. 25 years flood level is the level of the maximum flood in a 25 years period. Then there was a 50 year flood level and 100 years flood level. 100 year flood level was the level where your like normal development will be permitted. Within 100 years flood level, we have provided cycle track and walkway at 50-year flood level, and within 25 years flood level, nothing was provided. So this was the typical section. All your amenities like sit outs, toilets, and those are provided at a 50-year flood level within the river right of way. in terms of the tree avenue, which is like plantation of tree all along the river edge. So, I mean, basically it was, I mean, planned as a linear plant resource. I mean, where the variety of different trees and they were provided, and there was a pattern where like flowering was flowering was arranged in a manner like at every point of time there will be flowering in a certain stretch. So if you like I mean along the water edge. Yeah. So I'll go for the landscape design of different parks. So there were like three major city level parks were designed within the project. One of them was the bird park. I mean, Seeker Road Bird Park. So this site was basically a site of an old dam created in 1853. So it was an old dam. There was a broken wall, and there was a small wetland located just off the Amanisha Nala. So idea was to create a space like to conserve that wetland where we can go out for like natural activities. Bird watching decks were created. So this was the place where that like uh, colonial period pump house was located, which was identified and restored as a waterworks museum and cafe. So, within this project, a wetland area was designed, a recreational water pool was designed, which was called Rani Ka Talab to relate it to the, general public. And these are like entry areas and, parking. So there's a 3D view of that park. Second was the botanical garden. So, I mean, in terms of explaining why this theme was given to the park, so there's a city level park themed as a botanical garden. So when
Santosh, you'll have to unmute yourself.
yeah, am I on mute?
Yeah, I think somebody put you on mute. So now you can go ahead.
Okay. So for botanical, idea was to create a themed city park with a vast collection of botanical species. I mean, in order to educate general public, as in like how these trees can be used like medicinally. So different gardens were created on different themes. So there were like 7-8 gardens created in a very small space of like 32,000 square meters. We had planted like more than 5,000 species of trees in this garden. So, I mean, these are the different pictures. Like on the top left, there's the cafe which is provided within the park. There's one aerial view. So these are the pictures when these were getting constructed. Uh, Even if you go today, now it looks like even more beautiful. Next is the Project Experience Center. So Project Experience Center was one important component of the project in terms of public participation, because this like as I could explain, I mean this the most of the land, around 50% of the land was in like private ownership, and land acquisition was not was not happening or was not possible because of the Land Acquisition Act 2013 was still in like still on hold, I guess, and the land acquisition was not possible. So in terms of like getting this project executed, so we had to convince general public as of the importance of the project. So this PEC was planned, Project Experience Center, in order to educate people how this project would be, how will it like help the city or the general masses. And it actually helped people understand why this project is so important. So this here's the picture of this Project Experience Center building. These are the like interior images of the exhibitions. So photo exhibitions were created, a theme was like created on the like labors and all. Panels were created on the project benefits, a city map was created. I mean, I have a bigger picture of this city. So this city, a model was created for the Jaipur city in context of Dravati River, so that people living along the this river, they could go and identify their houses in terms, with the reference of the river. So this was created. A detailed map was for Jaipur city was created, which is still there in the Project Experience Center. So, I mean, by explaining all these slides, this was an exercise which had like different aspects, which has an urban planning aspect, which is like landscape design, urban design involved. We had to do a lot of work from like uh, land use planning to go to the details of the project experience center design. So it involved a different approach. So in terms to conclude, I'll say, for riverfront approach, what lessons we have learned. First thing is like in planning, we need to consider nature first approach. For example, when master plans are prepared, rivers, water bodies, these are generally marked as eco-sensitive areas, and further detailing is not done. So we need to take them on priority while planning. We need to change our approach from socio-economic to socio-natural. If I explain that, so when we do our planning, we consider a lot of socio-economic aspects, while we need to go them from economic to natural aspects. We need to conserve our water bodies, natural resources in long term. We need to have more public participation in the projects. For example, for Jaipur, we were lucky that this project was executed in spite of having so much like private stake. But for such projects to be successful, we need to have more public participation. uh, Greening the neighborhoods. By greening the neighborhood, we need to connect all cross linkages of the green. So in this project, we have tried to create a linear green spine through the city, but we can also try and connect green spaces located across the rivers. We can connect them. uh, in this particular project, we have done the river channelization. The effort should be made from river channelization to river conservation. We can conserve the rivers in their original shape or form. We need to have more stakeholder management. Better stakeholder management. For example, in this project, in approvals and all, IITs were involved, more institutions were involved. So that is a good approach for a river rejuvenation project. There are many areas. So there were many kachi bastis and slums located all along the this river front. While we have rejuvenated the river and redeveloped it, all those areas are still lying in the same state. So we also need to take up those areas as part of riverfront development projects and revitalize them. uh, Policy level interventions. There should be policy guidelines for riverfront development. In fact, government is working on it. NIUA and NMCG, they're jointly working on creating policy for the riverfront development. Central nodal agencies shall be established for such projects. In this project only, JD was the nodal agency. I think, in fact, it happened in the later stage when this multiple land ownership was there and the decision making was difficult. Later, state government announced that the JD will remain the nodal agency and all the land would be transferred to the JDA for development, and later the revenue will be shared by the different agencies. More attention can be given to strengthening the biodiversity. Though in this project we could create a bird park, more such projects should be created when we plan such projects, because rivers are not only water streams, but they carry a lot of life with them. So they can support a lot of biodiversity. So we can focus also on the strengthening biodiversity. So on this, I'd like to have views of Mr. Shanish as well, and what are the lessons that we have learned. So I'll transfer to Mr. Shanish. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think thank you, Santosh, for giving that
Yeah.
wonderful insight on the planning part.
So actually,
The,
I'm feeling a little bit thirsty, so I'm like having trouble speaking. So I'll just get some water. Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
So the biggest lesson that we have learned is that while this seems to be an engineering project, I mean, I'm a engineer by profession, and we always thought that these are engineering projects where we are talking about hydrology, we are
Yeah.
talking about treatment and getting clean water and etc etc. But I think these projects are very important from architecture and planning point of view. I think that is how the need is established. Yes, of course, engineering and architecture and urban planning, they have to go hand in hand. I mean, you can't just have one and ignore others. You have to work like a team and then create a project. So this is typically the lesson that we have learned, that there are many planning aspects that Mr. Santosh has also explained in detail, that how planning of these rivers zone is going to change and transform the entire city. So I think we have good opportunity. Uh, I think we are a country of opportunity at this stage. All the Western and European countries are in fact coming to India because they see it as an opportunity to do something that we have not done for so many years. So I think the biggest learning is that it's time that we should start taking these rivers as part of our lives. Either we are staying close to them, we are not staying close to them, but in a way we are getting affected. So uh, I think all as a team, and I think especially all the young urban planners and architects who are actually listening to us, you have a major role to play because you are going to be part of many development corporations. You're going to be part of consultants. Some of you are going to start your own ventures. So wherever you go, and if you have a good policy framework which is getting institutionalized as we move along, and possibly when you come out, when you graduate or postgraduate, and when you come out in the market, you will have an ocean of opportunity here. And we look forward to all of you to contribute your piece of mind and information and knowledge in this, so that we have a very beautiful urban centers in the country. I think that's all from our side. If you have any questions, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanesh. Thank you so much, Mr. Santosh, for this valuable knowledge. So now time for some question and answers. We already have few questions. I would like to request our speakers to please answer them. So my first question is, it's been observed that the riverfront development is done keeping in mind the rejuvenation of river to protect it from the further pollution and to create a recreational area around it. But often it's been observed that it further leads in creating more pollution after the development.
Uh, okay, so I'll go for that, Santosh. It does not. In fact, why it happens is that we have not managed our rivers well, or
Yeah.
I think whoever has asked that question, possibly it must be coming that when you have a good river, then you have so much of development, more population, more water consumption, more solid waste coming into the vicinity of river. Yes, there is, but then what we do when we plan such projects. So, for example, when we have done planning for this particular project, we have planned for all the developments which are going to happen for next 30 years. So we
Yeah.
have done population projections. We have seen what kind of population is going to come into that area. So thereby, how much more wastewater is going to get generated, what kind of industries would come. So then you have to plan for effluent treatment plants. Then definitely more amount of solid waste is going to get generated in that area. So you need to have larger capacity of waste management. So all those aspects are taken into consideration when we are planning, and we typically plan for 30 to 40 years of horizon. So I would say that if definitely if we don't manage our infrastructure well, yes, possibly, we will do some more damage to it. But that is not the intention. The intention is to create infrastructure so that we actually plan for next 30 to 40 years so that it is protected.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to add on this. Yeah, I mean, so one small incident of the project. When we were planning this project, so we wanted to push for a no boundary project. I mean, so when this river is there and there's a boundary plan on the edges of, I mean, on the right of way. So we suggested we don't want to have a boundary on the edges, and these colonies should be connected with the river. Now the problem that these authorities face, if they do not have a boundary wall, people will throw kachra into the river. I mean, solid waste. And so that's how this boundary wall has come there. So I mean, these are the practical problems. Obviously, I mean, hazards of the development. But I mean, you'll have to make provisions. You cannot stop development. I mean, for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true, sir.
So you may ask your questions in the chat. If any one of you have any questions, you can put them to the chat box. Meanwhile, we ask a few more questions we already have. So next question is, what is a mature river?
Yeah. So, what is a mature river? It's a very broad question. So, possibly I'm going to answer it very broadly. So, a mature river in our senses, as I had said, that there are three dimensions as we look at it. So, there is a functional aspect, there is a social aspect, and then there is a ecology. So, a mature river can be mature on all these three dimensions. So, I would say a river, if it is functionally very active, that if I am able to go to a river, I am picking up a glass of water directly from a river and trying to drink it. Or I am, socially, if I can actually very happily go sit on the bank of that river where I can see a very beautiful sight. I don't have bad odor or very filthy sight, and I'm very happy and peaceful, then I would call it mature. And ecologically, yes, if I can see a very good aquatic life, very good flora and fauna, fish swimming into the rivers, then I would call it mature.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Very true, and I must say, excellent presentation, Mr. Santosh and Mr. Shanesh. It was really very good, knowledgeable experience for us, and I love the model which you have placed there. I think Santosh must be your creation, and all the designs and all. So it was really creative and coming up really well. Even the idea of converting the old British pump house into a cafe looks very amazing, and it is, I think, a great initiative to actually rejuvenate the whole area, not only the river but the whole area. And I think we need such initiatives in most of our cities, because all our rivers, as Shanesh very rightly said, are, so this is a normal landscape which we all see, and the change of this landscape is really hugely going to add value to our lives when we stay on the cities. So I'm really happy to see the students join, and there are some students who are actually working in the areas of riverfront development. So do we have any more questions, Akanksha, Vishali?
Ma'am, we have, but I think we'll just close it up. And I would like to request our coordinator, Ms. Sunita Manji, to conclude this webinar to his admirable work.
Thank you, Akansha. And I myself has questions to both of you, sir. And one thing I would like to know, as you were emphasizing on that we should imbibe our environmental conservation or riverfront conservation, river conservation into the master planning exercise. Sir, as you have been closely working with the Jaipur Development Authority and the planner and authority people, sir, as per your observation, do you think these authority people, are they themselves interested in these sort of imbibing of environmental conservation into master planning exercise?
Uh, uh, can you please, rephrase again? Are the people themselves what?
Are the authority people themselves, they are interested into imbibing environmental conservation or river zoning development plan into the master planning exercise of cities?
Of course. So, so I would say this project was generated only because the master plan of Jaipur 2025 gave way for this project. Yeah, within the master plan, they have included a chapter on Drivati River, and they have suggested for a detailed area development plan for the Drivati River, considering all the aspects that it should be done. So from there, it was initiated. So so of course, planners and they are like making efforts to do that. So, and when I'm talking about environmental issues, we're not taking them seriously. So they are like hurdles, they are practical issues. So for example, environmental clearances. So for this project, if we wait for environmental clearance, and which will come in next 5 years, so we cannot wait for that. So for going practically, we have to take like certain shortcuts to get it done. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I think this is a question which many of us face, especially in the academics, especially the students, that why in spite of we being taught so much and still the cities are in such a mess, the authorities are not serious enough, like are they serious or not? So I think this question is coming from that question which we always have, why that all these things are happening. So, and even I think I must add one more challenging thing which I always face is the community participation. Because no matter whatever we do, if the community doesn't cooperate and doesn't participate, so although this is also always a challenge, how to train the community to behave in a more responsible manner, be it any aspect of urban planning. So I think that is also one major challenge and one major area where we have to look into.
I would say this project was on the part of that, because most of the land was under private ownership, and very few people objected. Very few people objected, and they went to the court. And though court didn't like entertain their like objections and all, because this was a project in like public interest, but I will say ki people of Jaipur has taken up this project as their own, and they have like given their lands for it. Because most of the land which is under the riverbed is under private ownership. So if it was not for the people, or if it was not for their will, this project won't have happened. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why it is a very successful project. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So, Pramod, you may like to conclude. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And I would like to thanks to Mr. Joshi as well as Mr. Santosh for sparing their valuable time and interacting with our students, as well as providing your in-depth insights to our students based on your on-ground experiences. And I'm very sure that our young planners, they have learned a lot because of this webinar and very experiential session. And I just would like to mention, sir, that there are you have already covered various aspects of river rejuvenation and waterfront development, as well as a few takeaway points. You very specifically mentioning that that our environmental conservation have been given due consideration to the master planning exercise itself, which is a very important idea to convey to the young planner. As well as the planning exercises have been undertaken by you for this project. It also remained a very good learning experience for our students, and I especially thanks to you to sensitize our young planners for especially for the environmental conservation.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Rila ma'am. As well as I also would like to convey my thanks to the IT team, and I also especially would like to mention our M planning students, Akansha and Vaishali, for very beautifully conducting the entire webinar. Thanks to both of you. Thank you, Rila ma'am, also for supporting and hosting this webinar.